Ladies and gentlemen, the tragedy of our time is that men pray with their lips but hold on with their hands. Women cry out for healing but cling to what hurts them. We profess faith yet fear tomorrow. We say God is in control but refuse to release control. And I submit to you today, you cannot hold on to pain and grab hold of purpose. You cannot cling to the past and walk into promise. You cannot claim God's plan while still trying to write your own. This message is not just words. It is a mirror to your soul, a challenge to your spirit, a question to your heart. Are you brave enough to let go and trust God? Because if you are, then what comes next will shake your faith into flames. They have told us to be strong, to hold on, to fight our battles and carry our burdens like warriors who fear no weight. But what they fail to tell us is that there comes a moment in every man's life when strength is not in holding on, but in letting go. The world glorifies control. The world worships independence. The world teaches you to grip tight, to plan every second, to force outcomes, and to never show weakness. Yet the truth, my brothers and sisters, is this. The greatest power is not found in your grip, but in your release. Because you cannot carry the weight of the world and receive the grace of God at the same time. You cannot climb higher when you are chained to your past. You cannot rise when your hands are full of fear. You must let go. You must let go of the illusion that you are in control. You must let go of the belief that your understanding is sufficient. You must let go of the lie that your pain defines you, that your trauma is your identity, that your mistakes are your future. Because as long as you are holding on to the things that broke you, you will never receive the power that is meant to build you. We live in a generation that glorifies hustle, but does not understand surrender. We pursue the crown without ever kneeling before the throne, and that is why so many are tired. That is why so many are broken. That is why anxiety eats the minds of the young and the old alike. Because the soul is trying to carry a cross it was never meant to bear alone. Letting go is not defeat. Letting go is divine alignment. It is not the language of failure. It is the dialect of faith. It is not what the weak do. It is what the wise do. It is not giving up. It is giving over. And until you learn to open your hands, God cannot place anything new inside them. There are things you are praying for that require space in your life. Space that is already occupied by what you refuse to release. Some of you are asking for new relationships while still clinging to toxic ones. Some of you are praying for a new door to open while still trying to force the old one to stay open. You must understand this eternal truth. God will not bless who you pretend to be, and He will not elevate you while you still carry the idols of your past. There is something sacred about surrender. When you reach that point where you say, "Lord, not my will, but yours be done," heaven begins to move. When you say, "God, I release the pain, the betrayal, the shame," healing begins to flow. When you finally declare, "I don't have all the answers, but I trust the one who does," peace begins to reign. There is power in that kind of faith, the kind of faith that chooses trust over logic, the kind of faith that doesn't need to see the whole staircase, but takes the first step anyway. The kind of faith that walks away from what is familiar even when it hurts, because you know your destiny demands it. And yes, letting go will cost you. It will cost you comfort. It will cost you control. It will cost you the approval of people who do not walk in your shoes. But what you gain is beyond comprehension. You gain clarity. You gain peace. You gain divine access to blessings that have been waiting for your obedience. Because God will not pour new wine into old wineskins. He will not give the next level to a heart still attached to the last one. Letting go is not about forgetting. It is about releasing. It is about saying, "I no longer carry what is not mine to carry. I am no longer bound by what God has already released me from." The reason many never walk in their purpose is because they are still holding on to their prison. The prison of fear, the prison of unforgiveness, the prison of pride. But hear me, your destiny is too great to be delayed by what you were meant to drop. Your calling is too urgent to be stuck in cycles you were called to conquer. The weight you carry is not a trophy, it is a trap, and freedom begins the moment you decide you will no longer drag what you were meant to drop. They tell us to trust when it's easy. To trust when the bank account is full, when the doors are open, when the path is straight and the road is clear. But true trust in God is not born in comfort. It is forged in chaos. It is not proven when all is well. It is tested when nothing makes sense. Trusting God is not passive. It is an active declaration that even when I do not understand, I will not abandon. Even when I do not see the full picture, I will not run. Because trust is not about what I feel, it is about who I believe. And I believe in the one who sees the end from the beginning, who writes purpose in the pages of pain, and who never leaves even when the storm is loud. There are moments in life when the silence of God is louder than the noise of the world, when prayers seem to bounce back from the ceiling, when answers are delayed, doors are closed, and hope hangs by a thread. In those moments, it is easy to question, to doubt, to take matters into our own hands. But hear me, the delay is not denial, the silence is not absence, the closed door is not rejection, it is redirection. When you trust God, you begin to understand that His timing is perfect, even when it feels like you are being forgotten. You begin to realize that what feels like a setback is a setup, that what looks like the end is just the beginning of something greater than your imagination could ever contain. Trusting God requires courage because it means releasing control. It means stepping into the unknown. It means walking by faith and not by sight. And we live in a generation that has been trained to rely on evidence, to believe only what can be proven. But faith does not operate on evidence. It operates on revelation. Faith does not need to see the destination to take the journey. And if you wait until everything makes sense, you will never move. You must move when it's still dark, speak when you still feel uncertain, and obey even when it hurts. Because the road to destiny is paved with obedience, not convenience. Trust is not a one-time decision. It is a daily surrender. It is waking up every morning and saying, God, I still believe you. I still trust your plan. I still know you are working even when I cannot trace your hand. And let me tell you something. God honors that kind of trust. Heaven responds to that kind of faith. Because when God sees someone who trusts Him beyond logic, He releases blessings that defy reason. He opens doors that no man can shut. He shifts atmospheres and alters timelines to align with divine purpose. But the key is trust, not halfway trust, not conditional trust, full surrender. The problem is, many of us say we trust God, but we also have backup plans. We say we trust God, but we panic when it doesn't go our way. We say we trust God, but we doubt Him the moment the storm intensifies. That is not trust. That is convenience disguised as faith. Real trust is when you burn the bridges behind you, when you say, even if He slays me, still I will trust Him. When you have no plan B because you believe plan A is divine, that is the level of trust that births miracles. That is the trust that makes giants fall, that parts seas, that shuts the mouths of lions. You cannot fake trust. Life will test it. Life will reveal it. And if your trust is rooted in emotion, it will crumble. But if your trust is rooted in revelation, it will endure. Because when you know who God is, when you have seen His hand, felt His presence, and walked in His promises, you do not need to understand every detail. You just need to obey. Trust is not based on the absence of struggle. It is based on the presence of God in the struggle. It is knowing that even if the fire gets hotter, He is still with you in the furnace. Even if the valley gets darker, His rod and His staff still comfort you. Even if the storm gets louder, His voice still whispers, "Peace, be still." You see, one of the greatest struggles in the human soul is the inability to release the past. We wear our pain like armor. We cling to betrayal like a badge of honor. We hold tightly to the moments that broke us, as if releasing them would erase our identity. But let me speak into your spirit today. Your past may explain you, but it does not define you. The pain you experienced, the disappointments you endured, the failures that tried to bury you, they do not own you unless you give them permission. The past is a place of reference, not a place of residence. And until you let go of what was, you cannot fully step into what is and what can be. We are not held back by the enemy's power. No, we are often held back by our unwillingness to release the weight of our own history. You cannot soar while dragging chains. You cannot move forward while constantly looking backward. Some of us are chained to regret, regret of what we should have done, regret of who we should have been. But I came to tell you, regret is a thief. It steals your present and bankrupts your future, and God is not dwelling on what you missed. He is calling you to what still remains. There is still purpose in your lungs. There is still destiny in your footsteps. But to walk in it, you must be willing to release what's behind you. Forgiveness is not a gift for them. It's freedom for you. Some of us cannot let go because we are still waiting for an apology that may never come. We are still holding people hostage in our hearts, expecting closure that may never arrive. But hear this, you don't need closure to be free. You need release. You need to decide, I will no longer carry the weight of someone else's actions. I will no longer let bitterness build a prison around my potential. I choose to forgive not because they deserve it, but because I deserve peace. That is where real freedom begins. That is where healing flows, and letting go is not just about pain. It is also about comfort zones. Some of us are too loyal to our limitations. We are too familiar with dysfunction. We have become comfortable with fear. But growth begins where comfort ends. God will often disrupt your comfort to deliver your calling. You cannot ask God for elevation while clinging to fear. You cannot ask for transformation while refusing to leave behind what's familiar. To step into a new season, you must let go of the old mindset, the old insecurities, the old excuses, the old narrative that says you're not enough. Let it go. It is not weakness to release. It is strength. Because only the strong can say, this pain will not control me, this failure will not define me, this fear will not limit me. And when you release, heaven responds. When you let go, the weight lifts. When you surrender, you create space for new things to emerge. Some doors are not opening because your hands are still full of yesterday's debris. Some blessings are delayed because you are still holding on to what should have been buried. Let go of what is dead so you can embrace what is alive. You must trust that what God has for you is greater than what you lost. You must believe that what is ahead of you is bigger than what is behind you. But that belief requires action. It requires you to make peace with your past and peace with your present. It requires you to stop rehearsing the pain and start declaring the promise. You cannot rewrite history, but you can reclaim destiny. And destiny is not found in the ashes of what was. It is found in the courage to move forward, not perfectly, not painlessly, but purposefully. Letting go is not forgetting. It is remembering without allowing it to control you. It is being able to speak about your story without being trapped in it. It is turning your scars into testimony, your wounds into wisdom, your story into power. And when you do that, when you finally release the weight, you walk differently. You speak differently. You live with clarity, not confusion, with expectation, not anxiety, because you are no longer chained to what hurt you. You are connected to what heals you. Many people say they trust God, but their actions betray their words. It is easy to speak of faith when the waters are calm, but true trust is tested when the storm rages and the night seems endless. We speak of God's power, yet we panic at the first sign of delay. We declare His sovereignty, yet we scramble to control outcomes with our limited understanding. We claim to believe in His promises, but deep down we worry if He truly sees us, hears us, or even remembers us. But I stand to remind you today that God is not a man that He should lie. If He spoke it, it will come to pass. If He promised it, it is already settled in heaven. The question is not whether God is faithful. The question is whether you will trust Him when nothing makes sense. The reason many of us wrestle with trust is because we confuse God's silence with His absence. But silence is not abandonment. Silence is not rejection. Silence is the training ground of trust. It is in the quiet places that your roots grow deep. It is in the waiting that your faith is refined. You don't grow when you get everything instantly. You grow when you are forced to rely on God moment by moment, not knowing how, but believing He will. And that kind of trust, it transforms you. It strips away the illusion of control. It crushes the ego that says, I can fix this on my own. And it ushers in a posture of surrender where you say, not my will, but yours be done. Let me speak clearly. You cannot say you trust God while simultaneously depending on your backup plan. Trust means you burn the bridge behind you because you know God is building a greater road ahead. Trust means you release the need to have every answer because you are anchored in the one who holds all the answers. Trust means you are willing to walk blind, not because the path is clear, but because the voice leading you is trustworthy. Abraham trusted when he left his homeland, not knowing where he was going. Moses trusted when he raised his staff at the Red Sea, not knowing how it would part. And you must trust even when you cannot trace God's hand, because his heart has never left you. Many times the problem is not that God hasn't moved, it's that we haven't let go. We still clutch our timelines. We still demand our conditions, but God doesn't operate on our terms. He operates on his perfect timing. And the beautiful thing about his timing is that it may not come when you want, but it will always be on time. You see, the delay is not denial, it's development. You're not being punished, you are being prepared. God is stretching your capacity, he is building resilience, he is uprooting pride and planting patience. He is doing a deep work even when it feels like nothing is happening. Sometimes God allows the situation to become impossible, not to harm you but to position you. Because when the bank says no, when the doctor shakes his head, when the door slams shut, then and only then do you look up and realize your help comes from the Lord. God waits until your resources run out so you can finally recognize he was the source all along. So do not despise the season you're in, do not curse the process. Trust that the same God who brought you this far will not leave you now. He didn't bring you out of Egypt to abandon you in the wilderness. He is still the God who makes a way where there is no way. He is still the God who turns water into wine, ashes into beauty, graves into gardens. And when you truly trust God, you find peace, not because everything is perfect, but because you know the one who is perfect is in control. You stop striving, you stop stressing, you stop scheming, and you start resting in his promises. You wake up every morning saying, God, I may not see it yet, but I believe it's working for my good. You go to sleep every night declaring, I don't know how you'll do it, but I know you will. That is the posture of trust. That is the spirit of surrender.